What's up guys, this is vanilla. Not the flavor, but just sweet. It's almost Halloween. You know what that means?
Time to give out candies to little kids like a pedophile?
What? No, it's time for spooks and scares.
Oh, okay, maybe next time.
So today I'll be giving 6 anime titles, 6 manga titles, and 3 reasons why they're scary. What, did you think I'd say 666? I'm too innocent for that. Or am I? You think you can handle these series? Let's start with manga. Before I begin, let me just say that I didn't add Riaka or Pupa or even Dao to this list because I didn't really find them as horrific. They added more shonen-like elements and the horror elements really didn't stand out. But anyway, here we go. First up is Yami no Koe, or Voice of the Dark. Created by Junji Ito, aka the father of horror manga, the series is a collection of interrelated horror short stories that rely on disturbing themes to tell the story. It comprises of 2 volumes, but you'd still understand the story without reading the prequel. The disturbing imagery really brings a creepy vibe to the story. Be advised though, this is very terrifying, so I don't recommend this if you have a weak heart. Next is Jisatsu Circle. This manga by Furuya Usamaru is based on the live-action movie of the same name. It revolves around teen girls joining a certain circle which allows them to commit suicide together. All members of that group live miserable lives, having experienced depression, abuse, rape, etc. Now, this manga tackles a lot of sensitive topics, so I don't recommend this to those faint of heart. It gets depressing at times, and you might get affected by the depression if you read it too much. Still, if you want to check it out, it's still out there, but viewer discretion is advised. Up next, we have Dead Tube. This manga by Kitakawa Tota is one of those series that's literally for adults only for various reasons. It's about this boy who finds the site named DeadTube and finds out how can he make a lot of money by simply uploading videos there. Pretty much like YouTube, right? No, because the videos uploaded are of murders and of gory deaths. Now you may think it's illegal, but it's actually handled by a higher government official, thus it makes it legal in their universe. This manga centers itself on gore and insanity, where everyone dies, no exceptions. It's still an ongoing series, but some of you may want to back out on this. No? Oh, okay, let's move on to the next one. Next up is Mano Kakera, or Fragments of Horror. Another collection of horror stories by Junji Ito, it presents various horrific tales in segments. It consists of characters who try to survive their unimaginable predicaments. Now this series traumatized me, especially that one chapter where he had to hold his head steady or else his head will fall off. Yeah, I don't want to move into the specifics, let's just move on to the next one. Up next we have Fukushu Kyoshitsu, or Revenge Classroom. Now this manga by Kaname Ryu is quite similar to Hellgirl in some ways. But instead of relying on the doll, the main character actually puts all of them to hell. It revolves around a girl named Ayano who is constantly bullied by his classmates. Because of their ill treatment for her, she decides to take revenge by taking them all down to hell. She frames her classmates, put them in a horrible position, and eventually bringing them to suicide. Yeah, it's rather dark and it gets darker each chapter, so be warned, this is not a family-friendly manga. Last but not least, we have Mahou Shoujo of the End. Yay, Mahou Shoujo! That can't be scary. Right? Well, this manga by Seto Kentaro is about magical girls killing every living being and literally end. Most of the scenes are ridiculously violent and anyone can die at any time. They can show up one moment and then the next they're dead. But it all went to crap when time travel and magic blood was introduced. At that point the horror element disappeared. Still, it's a highly gory-fying manga that you should totally check out. And those are 6 manga titles that I recommend you read this Halloween. Not an avid reader? It's fine, we still have 6 horror anime titles, so just wait. Again, I won't be adding Attack on Titan or Tokyo Ghoul because they're more shonen-like than horror. Anyway, let's get started. First is Corpse Party: Tortured Souls. Let's begin with the most mainstream horror series. Based on the game of the same name, it tells a story of students suddenly being transported to a haunted elementary school after doing a chant that was supposed to keep them friends forever. As you'd expect, that didn't work out, so they're stuck in a freaking horror school. It features ghosts and violence together in one series to make the perfect setting for a horror anime. No character is safe, everyone has a chance of dying, and when they die all over again. Forever. What scared me the most was not the gore, of course it had its moments, but the fact that it might actually exist. But then fanservice destroyed it. I love the pan shots, but this one time, I didn't want fanservice to be included. Next, we have Hellgirl. Imagine this, if you found out about a site where if you type the name of the person you hate, that person goes straight to hell. But there's a catch. You also go to hell, but yeah, it's only after you die. This show presents how far humans would go to get revenge on someone they hate. So be careful who you make fun of. You might just go straight to hell. Also, Hellgirl is just so friggin' creepy. Those eyes are staring into your soul. Next is Aoi Bungaku. And yes, that's a real person that you see before you, but it's gonna be animated afterwards. This series is a collection of Japanese literary classics where each episode is a different story. At first glance, it might seem like a boring series, heck there's an actual person in the open scene, but the visuals and sounds will keep you mesmerized and horrified at the same time. Also, you might even learn a thing or two about Japanese literature, history, and culture. So not only are you watching a horror movie, you're also learning something. And that's a plus. Next up is Kaidan Restaurant, or Thriller Restaurant. Okay, yes, it's pretty much a series for kids, but it's also a horror. Adults might not see it as scary, but kids certainly do. Heck, the first time I watched this back when I was a kid, it was freaky as heck. Each episode is divided into 3 segments: appetizer, entree, and dessert. The first being stories told by Ako, a character in the series, the second being the main plot, and the third being a side story. If you haven't seen this, you're lucky. You weren't terrified during your childhood. Good for you. Next up is Yamishibai. This series is, again, a collection of independent horror stories told by a narrator. It starts off with a storyteller giving scary stories to kids, and the way he tells the story is through this paper screen thing. Its creepy narration and visuals earned itself a 2nd season and even a 3rd season. So you know it's scary when it reaches that many sequels. Of course, most of the stories here are mostly creepypastas, but still, it's scary as heck. Last but not least is Ghost Hound. If you're thinking, that looks like Hellgirl, well, you'd be right about that. Both Hellgirl and Ghost Hound were made by the same production label. The story is set in Suiten, a town where the human world and underworld intersect. And recently, the ghosts in the underworld, or the unsealed world as they call it, are running amok. Now, it's not a horror series per se, because it also has mystery vibes to it. But the ghosts are still pretty terrifying. I don't really recommend this if you don't like mystery, but go ahead. 6 horror anime titles. But if you're asking why I didn't add Pupa or Death Note or Attack on Titan, simple. They don't meet the requirements of being horror. So then, what makes a horror anime horror? Well, there are 3 requirements that must be met. A horror series' primary objective is to scare the audience. I mean, that's why it's horror in the first place. The way the elements are presented should also be taken into account. If it's accompanied by unsettling music and very vivid imagery, then it could be considered horror. Also, if the story emits an aura of helplessness and fear, then it's all the more reason to call it a horror series. Speaking of helplessness, that's actually the next requirement, so let's just move on to the second requirement. The characters in the story are supposed to be treated as victims, the same way a girl is treated as a target in hentai. Wow, that took a weird transition. Treating the characters as such actually help retain the tension or the mood of the situation. If characters has a way to fight back, then it wouldn't really count as a horror. That's because you already know they have a way of escaping from it. For example, in Attack on Titan, they had a way to fight back against the Titans. They weren't necessarily helpless. And it decreased its horror factor even more when, spoiler alert, Titan transformation was introduced in the series. Also, the idea that a ghost or the killer might be out there somewhere brings more suspense to the series. Perhaps the most important factor is its very existence. If the story is adapted from book or a folklore, then it's more effective as a horror. One trait that could be adapted from these horror might be its immediate or short period fear. Japanese horror films love adding that. I mean, The Ring and The Grudge often use this unexpected jump scares to scare people. So really all you have to do is look for a jump scare and then you're looking for good horror anime, manga, or even movies. Make sure they carry these elements, because they'll give you the most terrifying experience you desperately crave for this Halloween. Anyway guys, that's it for me today. This took quite a long time to make, so I hope it's worth it. And if it is, please like it, and also subscribe down there for more videos like this. Once again, this is vanilla, not the flavor, which is the sweet.